Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our Thanksgiving edition of Deep Dives with New Perspectives.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for being here. And thank
Thank
everybody for being here on not only here on YouTube, but also here on the planet. In these
Definitely.
times, we need everybody to be present.
We really do. And so I really loved your idea the other day. You usually are the great popcorn idea individual for us too, and what we'll talk about. And so I like your idea of, like doing a little Thanksgiving thing, like what are we thankful for each one of the signs?
Oh yeah, because it's very natural at Thanksgiving time to have gratitude. This is a Jupiterian quality related to Sagittarius, thanking for the abundance we have in our lives. The whole, I mean, I'm not enthralled with the history of Thanksgiving, but having a day of Thanksgiving, regardless of why, but there are many reasons for having a day of Thanksgiving. And what better time than in the sign of Sagittarius, which is really about lots of things, an abundance of things. So, I wrote down 2 pages of things. I just got tired of writing. So
I love it. So, well, I think with you having so many in line, I yield the floor to you.
well, I thought you might have a very creative, unusual way of going about giving thanks from a perspective of the zodiac. But from my perspective, it was just, okay, let's be logical. We could just go through the signs, or we could start with Sagittarius since the sun is in Sagittarius. Do you have a preference, Michael?
Sure, it's just right at the end. It's like right on my moon at 29 degrees. So it's passing over today on Sunday. So it's right at the very end of Scorpio. So I think it's actually really good in that way of like, because I think part of what's nice about this, I don't know what the Sabian symbol, you could speak to that, but like that last degree of Scorpio and then going into Sagittarius, I would think there'd be some sort of an unburdening, it's like having made it through whatever challenging personal dramas and upsets and attachments and losses to get to the land of Sagittarius and go like, wow, that was really painful. And I'm so thankful to have those things stripped away.
Yeah, well, from a symbolic perspective in terms of Sabian symbols and so forth, and we are recording this before Thanksgiving Day, and that's why, even though I talked about Sagittarius,
sorry, and thank you.
That's why you bring up those. The sun is still in Scorpio, but the end of Scorpio is really about all the personal insights we have about ourselves as we interact with other people, whether it's interacting, in the public sphere of, transactions, etc., or more importantly for Scorpio is our interaction with another person that we are being intimate with. And not necessarily sexual intimacy, and can include sexual behavior, but that we actually bare ourselves to, bare our souls to another person. We tell secrets to. I want to tell you something about myself that isn't very nice. I hope you don't share this with other people. That's the end of Scorpio. Sometimes
sharing resources too, right?
And sometimes those things are shared in public. Case in point, huge example for this country is I keep not wanting to remember his name, Rittenhouse, who is just acquitted on all counts. And many of us, you obviously know where I stand, but even our politicians have expressed a little like, okay, well, the courts have said something, and we are a country based on laws, so we abide by those laws and abide by what judges say. But in fact, what we learned about this young man is something that for most people we wouldn't want anybody to know about us. It's a very scorpionic in that sense.
Right, but also in the sense of Jupiter, where what we have to learn about our justice system is it's about what charges are brought against a person and then proving or disproving them. And what's sad is that in a lot of these cases, the right charges are not being brought up against these individuals. And of course, I think the NRA is probably, coming in and paying some money and supporting, protecting these individuals who are doing these things. I mean,
right. So it's pointing out to us how unperfect our judicial system is. We may have been taught in school that it's pretty perfect, but it really isn't. And I don't want to really get off on this, but I had one thought was, oh, can those people that were assaulted by him, can they bring civil charges against him? Because that sometimes happens.
That's the next step, and that's what. And there's already civil suits already in place, I guess, against the police agencies and local state officials and.
Okay, well, that's very Jupiterian. But okay, let's
so let's see. I think it's just easier to go through the signs and then we don't miss anyone. So I was
going to say, going into Sagittarius, so it's like, and this is what we've kind of been doing. It's like you gather with your comrades, you gather with your friends, the people that you've shared experiences together, and you talk about them. And from the symbolic place, it's a bunch of veterans getting together, but they don't want to go back to war. So we don't want to go back to these awful situations that have ended up in the courts these days either. So there's a great similarity.
It's the final fire, right? It's the fire of liberation. It's the fire of freedom. It's the fire of excitement. It's the fire of passion. The passion that comes from the soul. That's right. What's great with the fire sense. Okay, so let's start with 9 then. We're going to start with the.
Not necessarily. I was going to say we can begin anew.
Okay,
we've had these horrible experiences or humiliating experiences, however that Scorpio comes down on you, or cruel experiences even. Right. But I'm not dead yet.
Monty Python, the meaning from.
There's opportunities. So let's go to Aries. Let's start anew.
Perfect. So Aries, what I love about them is this wonderful ability, their instinctual ability just to know in the moment where to go and what to do. I mean, they in the ways that they can be fearless leaders. I love that exciting way of that way of like being behind them and like, especially like on a trail or something like that, they could really push forward.
Oh, that's really nice. You really looked at this in a very different way than I did. And if I wasn't thinking about the Aries sun signs or any of the sun signs for that matter.
I wasn't necessarily thinking sun sign either. I was just thinking, that Aries energy.
But if I think about the people who are Aries sun signs who've been in my life, what I've appreciated about it is basically their directness. They're just right there, and where they stand, and you hear where they're going, and you can join them or you can stay where you are, whatever. I mean, they don't seem to care very much whether you're going to go along with them, which is all right. I mean, but it's all right to go along with them too. So they're kind of cool people to be around, those Aries suns. But in terms of just the sign of Aries, it's fun. I'm really grateful for a lot of entrepreneurs, for people who have started businesses, especially businesses that are like mom and pop shops. I wish we'd get back to more of those. Unfortunately, they're leaving. And I keep having, we could think about the Bezos of the world, and they're entrepreneurs. And in a way, it's a great vision he had. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I keep hoping that, oh, wouldn't it be nice if all the individuals that work in that company became shareholders, it became a collective, because it's a great, entrepreneurs, which is an Aries kind of thing, they have an idea of some business or something that they want to start and engage in. And it was a great vision. Unfortunately, it was only great. This is very Aries. This was only really great for that one person. Although many of us, benefit from the concept of Amazon and other sites that try to do something similar to that. So yeah, I'm grateful for the entrepreneurs. That's one of them. I could go on, but we might have to come back or something. Do you have something to say more about Aries?
Also, like, I think there's their athletic ability. There's always this, kind of a quality. There's like a responsiveness to the environment. That's what I quite enjoy.
Yeah, I could see that. Also, and this has to do with my own person. I am grateful. Thank you, Aries. I am grateful for my brain, for my head. For my head being intact, for my brain being somewhat intact.
Definitely.
This is an Aries part of all of us that it's sort of like the ram with budding people. Aries, I don't know if they're necessarily fighters in the physical sense, but they certainly have that kind of initiating energy. They go for what they want. That area is strong in somebody's chart,
Yeah, I always like that line, where angels fear to tread, but it's not like, if you talk to them, there's not, there's a courageousness, there's what other people perceive as fearlessness, but it's that fire almost being drawn to something combustible. It's like it's just drawn to, there's just something almost, it's very electric, right? I think it just draws them to these experiences that they have, and everyone else like, oh my God, how do you do that? And they're like, what? I'm just, like all 12 signs, they're just being themselves.
Right. And it's very interesting because talk about the brain. I just noticed a note I made about the brain, which is an Aryan part of us. Is I'm also related to that. Grateful for the neuroscientists who are writing about it today. One more recent is a Brit named Ian McGilchrist, who's written The Emissary and The Master and the Emissary. And it's about the hemispheres, the right and left hemispheres. And I heard him talk recently, and he's brilliant. And I just noticed that so many neuroscientists who are writing and talking things are coming around to looking at consciousness in a much broader perspective, and revealing things about our brains that haven't been taught in schools up until this point. And I'm really grateful for that.
Definitely. It's very nice to be grateful for. How about for Taurus?
Taurus. Oh gosh. Oh, well, I have to get in.
As you grab your throat.
I grab my throat, but I am grateful for the food that we have available here, and the restaurants that have done their best during this pandemic to nurture us with their wonderful recipes. I've not frequented very many of them, but where I've gone have been favorites of mine, and I'm very thankful for that as well. And all the senses, not just taste, but all of our physical senses, our hearing, our vision, the sensations of touching things. And to have all of those five senses still intact and still working. Some need a little help.
Little adjustments, yeah. Don't even think about them.
I even have those other, I don't have them on today, but I even have those other kind.
Well, I mean, that's actually kind of an interesting Taurus trait too, because I think sometimes the interesting thing with Taurus is like the ways in which it doesn't want to hear things, right? You know, it can be very like
The stubborn part.
stubborn part. Yeah, exactly. But I have to say, in that place where, you know, the stubbornness is also this incredible loyalty. Like what I love about friends of mine who have planets in Taurus, including the sun, is, you know, if once you're in there, once their loyalty, once they know that they can trust you, like you're it. I mean, there's really not, you know, you have to go kind of far to kind of fall from grace. Not that it's not impossible, but
Well, you know, the thing, I guess above everything is that Mother Nature is Taurian.
Mhm.
And Mother Nature in all of her beauty. And you know, it's sort of like she's giving us warnings these days about changes we need to make. And I know in my gratitude for her, and oh gosh, golly, well, can you hear my phone?
Big time. Is there a way to turn the ringer off?
Well, not at this point, because the person will leave a message.
You're right.
It's
On the side of your phone, you can click the little thing and it'll turn the ringer off if you want.
oh,
Just got to remember to turn it off back on again.
the well, I know you. Okay, so Mother Nature is it gets a big thank you from me, a huge thank you for all the flowers and vegetables and trees, you know, all of that. I just, you know, sometimes when we're really grateful for something or thankful for it, there is a difference between those two words. But because as somebody pointed out to me once, it was a long time ago, gratitude implies some kind of bond, and with Mother Nature, it's truly having to do with gratitude, and that includes even the warning signs she's giving us about how we treat her. And you know, Thanksgiving can be a renewal time of promising and tending to treat Mother Nature with more care, more sensitivity. And those are Taurian traits themselves.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. What about Taurus people?
That's what I was saying. Taurus people, for me, like, you know, the loyalty, the friendship.
Oh, that's right.
You know, being invited over, you know, you're going to get a good meal typically at a Taurian friend's home. You know, the food's usually going to be, you know, pretty good quality, you know, if they're inviting you over. I find that with Venus, because the Venus ruled for both Taurus and Libra, that I find that, you know, those individuals tend to be a little more careful about their meals in a sense, or when they invite people over, it's something special. Because they're showing how much they value you through feeding you. I find that to be like a Taurian trait, right?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. And it also makes me think, even though I don't think of artists per se in general as Taurian, it does represent the aesthetics that come through an artist. You know, I think of them more as the next sign, Gemini, in many ways.
I don't know about you, but what I find is very funny is I'm surprised by how many people I find with strong Taurus placements who are involved in publishing. I've seen that over and over and over again. So I find that to be very intriguing. You know, so
what you're reminding me, of course, it has to do with the possessiveness of Taurus, you know, and also within, you know, each sign is all the other signs, and there's 3 decans, and So 10 degrees of the 30 degrees in Taurus do belong to Virgo, which is more of a publishing. And then there's the Dwad, because the publishing itself could be more Sagittarian. And there is a Dwad in there somewhere.
We're gonna keep going off on tangents on each, so we gotta go. Okay, so speaking of, because Gemini is voluminous amounts of information that is sometimes relevant, but almost always very, very entertaining.
Yeah, I'm thankful for the information that Gemini suns give. Sometimes they could let other people talk a little bit more. But that's okay, because they're full of information, little tidbits of,
right. It's this desire, it's the first air sign. So it's like, hey, we can breathe, but it's like, and my favorite joke, which you've heard me say before, is, which one's the listener with two Geminis, the one who takes a breath first. Forceless.
That would be it, but not being a Gemini sun, it's sort of like you have to say, can I talk? Can I? I have some Gemini sun friends, and they're good friends. I mean, they're very much in tune with peer relationships, with people that they consider equals. It's the sibling sign. And I have to say I'm grateful for the siblings I've had and I still have in my life. And at some point siblings do have to interact, do have to listen to each other. But literally, this reminds me of my sister, she's an Aquarian as well, but she's got some strong Gemini energy. And I had an instance where I called her on the telephone, and I'm very thankful for the telephones. Telephones are not just Gemini, but they are in the sense of being able to talk to people long distance. And after she had this long, like 10-minute spiel of what was going on with her, and I just said, how are you? And then, 10 minutes later, she says, well, it was nice talking to you. I said, wait a minute, I called you for a reason.
Yes, and that reason is done. You've listened to me. Thank you. Bye.
So Gemini. That is so Gemini. But I'm thankful. I'm glad to have them in my life.
It's not, it's not ill-intended.
No, it's just who they are. It's just part of their nature.
It's at first beautiful. So it's like, it's trying to figure out, like, how do I move in from this place of, how do I integrate, in a sense. That's what I think about with Gemini. It's like, it's learning how to integrate. It's like learning how, like, how to put the brain and the mouth together in a sense, which is, I think, an issue with all the beautiful signs, Gemini and Sagittarius especially.
Yeah, definitely that. Yeah. So moving on to Cancer. You mentioned how you enjoy the Taurus meals. Well, what I have enjoyed about Cancer suns, and I have some Cancer sun signs in my life, is they know how they feed you well. And one Cancer sun that I'm thinking of right now, gourmet cook, and glad to share with you. But I also have this kind of warm, comfortable feeling when I'm with Cancer suns. I have a couple that I know. I knew the wife before I knew the husband, but they're both Cancer suns. Love being with them. It's like, I feel it's the ideal family feeling.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. It's like, when you think about it, like, Taurus is almost like, Taurus likes the idea of, like, kind of going out and getting the goodies if it can. If it can make it, it'll do it great. But Cancer, there's something like, when it's really about, like, I am going to show you how much I love you by feeding you my comfort foods.
Exactly.
It's just really this, like, it's like, here's a bowl of soup, but it's not just a bowl of soup. It's like grandma's recipe, and they went out in the yard and they picked, the herbs, and they went out and they found the right chicken, and and they had this, And it's in that, and all that
Yes.
love literally is.
Well, yeah. Well, you're reminding me then of the couple, the Cancer Sun. I was visiting them, staying at their place. We were up early. He's in the kitchen. He says, do you want a cup of tea? And I said, oh yeah, definitely. And it became this, and he explained it, I said, what do you have that gadget for? He said, you don't boil the water very well. You wait till it's exactly at this temperature. I mean, everything was done with, it was like a Japanese tea ceremony. And he actually talked about that at the same time, but it was like, wow. And so, yes, I've experienced that. I know exactly what you're talking
But I
about.
like what you're saying about it is something that people rarely talk about with Cancerians. My ex was a Cancer Sun with Venus and Mercury there as well, and was so brilliant with the food and everything. But it's like they're also encyclopedic in a way. It's like they've gathered all that information in Gemini, and they've got all this data related to it. Like, not only is this the reason why we're having it this, but this is the reason why. And it started back in the 12th century when it's data, it's information. And it's because it's about giving the clan or giving the ones they love the highest expression of what they have to offer. And that's a really beautiful trait. So yeah, that's one of the things I love about Cancer.
And Cancer, it's another thing about Cancer that you brought up is that they're very interested in the past. They have a certain respect for the past that is there. It's very, very wonderful. And of course, the sign of Cancer is about our families. Are we grateful for those at this time of year? And it's about the homes that we have, the houses we live in. Cancer energy are very good builders. They know a lot about construction, actually, as far as, not that they're all into that kind of business, but they're very tuned in to the shape of things that people are going to spend a great deal of time in. Like we so often spend more time outside of the hours we sleep. We often spend more time in a workplace, and the Cancer energy that built that place, some places are really comfortable. There's something about the design of them and the way the rooms are that one feels at ease with. It's probably the strong Cancer energy that did that.
I'm thinking of my friend Robin, who's a cabinet maker and home designer. Exactly. It's such a wonderful thing. And then you get to the wonderful, self-expressive Leo. Leo, no, Leo. Oh, Leo.
Oh, wow. Good old sign, Leo. Put me on stage.
Wait, you need to stand on your desk while you tell us about this?
Pardon?
You should stand on your desk while you tell us about this.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, having my son in the Leo house. Yeah. Now, I am grateful for all the entertainment that Leos bring to us. Whether it's on a personal level, Leo sun sign friends are fun to be with. They're fun loving. They're creative. They do their own unique little thing that hopefully pleases you. I was looking at a necklace the other day that I have that a friend made for me, and I'm going, boy, that's really unusual. I mean, it's like, I wish she was here to tell me why she did what she did, because I would never have done that. But there's this, I am grateful for the creativity that comes out of Leo energy. Very, very, very strong, creative, and playful and fun. And, if talk about great party times, let's play games. I'm grateful for all the board games, and even the games on our instruments. I'm glad that there's a chest, what do we call those little things? Icons or whatever, on my iPhone, because when I have to wait, when I wasn't planning on waiting for something, I have something to entertain me.
I'm also really thankful for all the actors and the actresses and the people who are able to take on roles that allow us to not only forget about ourselves for a little bit, but to really consider other ways of being and other situations and other ways of experiencing life and seeing life, so that we can maybe consider things from new vantage points and grow a little bit through how they present themselves. I think that's a really high aspect of the Leonine trait.
Yeah, it's sort of a being other conscious as well, to put themselves into another person's shoes and actually feel that energy very strongly. It's we think about make believe in our childhood, and Leo energy does that fairly well, making believe that there's somebody else or some other kind of character. And that's extremely informative. I mean, there are therapies based on that sort of interaction. And that's truly something to be thankful for. So moving on to Virgo, Mr. Mars and Virgo.
Mars, Uranus, Pluto, and midheaven. Just a couple, not much here. Don't have much to say about it. I just love. I just think. Yeah, I just get overwhelmed every time because it's such a big funnel. It's just like walking around with a big tray with every single possible thing on it and just continually asking people what they want. That's what I love about Virgo. It's like the resourcefulness, it's like, oh, you don't want that? Well, here, give me a second. Let me adjust it to what it is that you do want. How do we perfect it? How do we make it better? On the higher level. I mean, on the bad level, of course, it's that white glove thing, although we're not going to talk about bad sides. We're giving thanks for
White blood.
white glove.
Oh, white glove.
Our
The white blood. I'm going, what?
generation and older, people would check fast with the
Asthma.
glove. But
Yeah, no, they're this. They're like, let me serve you. Let me fix or give you what you need in this situation. They're all the employees of businesses and the farmers and just the down to earth workers, the accountants, everybody who's doing something to help life be better for others.
the ways in which they are trying to bring order out of the chaos.
Yes, very much so, and thank them very much for that, all of them.
The next one is your beautiful rising sign of
Libra. Oh yeah, let's be in relationship, and let's exchange in a very fair way, and let there be peace between us and among us. And there is that kind of acknowledgement that Libras have, especially Libra sons, acknowledgement of the others in the room, and wanting there to be a fair distribution of whatever is being exchanged, whether it's verbal or whether it's goods. An inclusiveness, really, of everything that's here, but an inclusiveness in a harmonious way, which is extremely very nice about the Libra energy.
And for me, it's like, the one word I always think about is, appropriate. For them, there's this code of ethics about a level of appropriateness about things looking pretty, and regardless of what it is, whether it's their home, their bedroom, how they put themselves together. It's just because it's not. It's about having a harmonious approach. It's about walking in. It's not like having the clutter and the ugliness. My grandparents were both. I've always have Librans around me. It's just I'm just always blessed with this sense of like, hey, what's the right way to do this? Here's A, here's B. What do we choose here? That's what I think. When Libra gets its balancing act together, so to speak.
when it gets it together. I'm smiling because I worked with a Libra sun person, and he was not neat in
Really?
his relationships. He was fair and, harmonious, but in his physical space, God help us. I can remember his daughter coming and going, "Yep, that's my dad. Look at this mess hole."
I'll be interested to see what some of the other planets are doing at that.
Yeah, I just said I'd bring that up because it depends on
That's very
the whole
true.
dynamic of the chart. So we are talking about sort of some of the highest expressions of a particular sign, and those being lit up by the sun. There are other factors. This is purely this is like astrology 101, and
Right,
some.
and we're also saying we're just basically giving thanks, which is really nice. And now going on to the next sign, which is, it's interesting because in a way, we've talked about these kind of like these higher and lower aspects, but to be honest, I think Scorpio operating, just being itself, is going to activate people, right? So whether it's coming out of a place of coming from this, its lower sense of self and being all filled with drama and issues, everything, or if it's coming from this higher sense of really sacrificing that which is untrue and really seeking its highest expression of itself. They're always kind of they're always affecting the environment, is what I would say. So what I like about my Scorpio peeps is like, they're kind of ready for whatever is that's present. No matter how, it's like Libra's going to worry about it, not, if it's inappropriate, but Scorpio, what I love about them is like, like you can have like a big old argument with your partner or with your family members in front of your Scorpio friends. You're like, yeah, okay, whatever. And, they just go along with their own business. They don't pay any heed to it. So I think it's the acceptance of the harder parts of our humanity. That's what I'm thankful for my Scorpionic friends.
Oh, well, I'm definitely thankful for the insights they have. People with Scorpio suns, etc., if they're, good friends, there are people you can tell just about anything to. And, they won't go, "Oh my God, I don't even want to know you anymore." No, they will listen, and they'll actually sometimes give you some good advice, say, "Well, this is, I've perceived that situation, and this is how I've always thought about it." And yeah, so I'm grateful.
Luckily, they've been there.
Yeah, exactly. On a very Monday, I'm looking at my notes. I'm grateful for the intimacy that one can have with Scorpio energy.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that it includes sexuality, but it also includes that intimacy where I can tell you my deep, darkest secrets. And I know that you will not shun me.
Right.
I'm really grateful for that kind of energy. And I'm also grateful, this is why I went there. I'm also grateful for bathrooms and lavatories.
Yes.
I just threw that in there in my notes thinking, yeah, let's just get down to it. Scorpio, it's like it's your private life in many ways, the private life of your soul, the private life of your physical body. And, and it's not meant to not be shared necessarily. It is a sign that has to do a lot with sharing, because it's in the sharing that there can be growth, tremendous growth and tremendous power. I'm really grateful for the power that comes, because, it's sort of like being in very intense therapy with some kind of psychotherapist. And, if you're doing your role and the therapist is doing his or her role, the results can be amazing.
Definitely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But it's important to do your role in a Scorpionic way. That is, you got to share your secrets.
Well, because I think one of the hardest parts for Scorpios we've talked about before is the shame part. And I think, we're in our society, we're taught a lot to be ashamed of these personal parts of ourselves. And the truth is we all, it's a lot of these areas are like more common than not amongst all of us. So it's like in that sharing, we all get liberated because it relieves. It's like, oh God, I'm not this horrible, ugly, nasty little being that, that the church tells me, or my society, or my family. It's like, no, you're being human. Welcome to the club. That's what Scorpio does.
Yeah. We've all been there.
And then you make it
Oh,
to the valley of death, and you reach the beautiful golden halls of Jupiterian land called Sagittarius. And here we are right on the cusp of it, getting ready to start. No one knows how to celebrate like Sagittarius.
uh, well, my father was a Sagittarian sun. And the thing that I enjoyed was he loved to travel. So it was always fun taking a trip with him. But he also loved to overindulge, like he would binge. And then I don't know anybody who presently has as many health related books as he had. He had a whole library of them. I think everyone that came out in the market he bought. And he would binge. I mean, to the point he would be on this protocol at one time and then go off of it and then go back on it again. And
you have Jupiter in the 6th?
I don't know. I don't have his time of birth. I just have his birthday.
Because it sounds like a Jupiter in the 6th house kind of thing, like, just this, this inability to say no. And that's the hard part with Sagittarius. But I like what I like about them is their unbounding optimism. Like, if you want to go and do a project, go to your Sagittarian friends, because they're going to they're like cheerleaders. They're going to root you on. You go, I'm so proud of you. Oh my God, how can you, it's so great what you're doing.
Yeah.
Was your dad
So,
a cheerleader in that sense for you and your siblings?
no, not at all.
Interesting.
Not at all. No, he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't.
My mom, like, her motto was like, whatever you set your mind to, you can attain. My mom was a Sag rising and Sag sun. So she was like, off the an idealist, I think is when I think of like that kind of a setup, because it's so boundless in a way, right?
Well, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
There are a lot of arrows in the quiver to shoot.
Yeah. I know that my siblings, especially one of my brothers, recognized that my father would live because, he would listen to me. I mean, he had his own opinions about everything, and my siblings they all, as my mother puts it, they all stayed away from him, but you. And and I was kind of amazed. I mean, in the year of his last year on the planet, he was he had serious health problems, and for part of that time he was living with my brother, and my brother would call me up sometimes and say, "You've got to come over here. You're the only one he listens to." And so I would come over and everything would be fine. But it wasn't that constant, joyous, upbeat Sagittarian thing. Sagittarius, well, I'm thinking about Jupiter. Jupiter had a lot of indulgences that were not nice or pleasant.
We don't get to see Zeus in his old age, like the cost of that kind of living, right? We know he's going to have gout. He's going to have, he's probably going to be a little large. He's probably really big, probably not move around too much, and might have a few venereal diseases by the time, especially with what Zeus was up to, or Jupiter. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't, it's when you're, and that's what really is about this. The reason why, in a sense, I think why Sagittarius is really great about the reason of law is because I think you see that with boundless options, with absolute freedom, sometimes comes corruption of power, right? And I think that's what Sagittarius comes to grips with in its understanding, in its highest understanding of where it's headed.
Well, case in point, we are a Sagittarian country, not as a sun sign, but as a rising sign for the Declaration of Independence, as well as for our Constitution. And you've just described us beautifully.
Well, it's, you know what, it's right on my ascendant. So, I mean, I live this energy, so I completely understand it.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you. And then we get on to Capricorn. Oh my goodness. I'm grateful for structures such as government. The fact that we have a certain kind of order about things, that it isn't totally chaotic. Not that it's always ideal, but I'm grateful for what we have, knowing that the government provides certain directions for us to take. So,
I like ways in which I really like the old way of thinking about Capricorn, in the sense of like the sea goat, the land goat, and the mountain goat. There's just what I like is it shows us this wonderful understanding, and also the friends of mine who have any planets in Capricorn, they give us all this understanding of what it's like to, like, when you work hard and put your intention towards something, how to become successful. I mean, they kind of, and they're kind of relentless about it, which is really nice, because it's like they're just geared to have to get there. So it's like, okay, I failed this time, but if you don't see it as failure, if you just see it as attempts, because a lot of the things is like our language. And I think Capricorn, when it gets, Saturn is learning these rules and these disciplines and these structures, the ruler of Capricorn. And, if we understand that we are our own authentic self, that if we learn how to be our own authority in the healthiest possible ways, there's really almost nothing we can't attain if we put our mind to it. And I think Capricorns really show us that determination and perseverance.
Yeah. Aside from government and order and structure and all of that, this is sort of related, is I'm really appreciative of chiropractors.
Oh, nice.
Talk about structure, and structure being in alignment, knowing where you're heading. You can't head there if you're out of alignment.
Oh, that's such a beautiful point. Yeah, and also the
chiropractors and all the people related to chiropractics, like osteopaths, were
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah. But also, and I'm also thinking of like healthy oriented corporations that pay their employees appropriate healthy wages and treat them appropriately and do the right things for the environment and right things for their community and right things for the planet as a whole. I mean, that kind of leadership, that kind of way of actually saying, hey, you know what, we can make this in a way as a company and provide this to many more people in a high quality way, and everyone wins. The owner and the employees do well business wise, and the customers walk away.
And it's sort of like our senators, who are, it seems like, being a little bit more thoughtful of the American people than just their parties. And yeah, very nice.
Speaking of parties, that's a great line to move into, organizations and such, the next sign of Aquarius. What are you thankful about with Aquarians?
I think we're partiers. This is the opposite sign of us. They're the partiers.
I didn't know. I said, what do you think about the sign of Aquarius?
Aquarius.
Yeah.
Well, what I really appreciate about our sign, and this would include you, is that we find we can come up with what, when there's a problem or an issue, there's that inventive, you might call it inventiveness. This is kind of, we're not all inventors, but I'm saying that where, oh, well, if you did it this way, that, so there's these kind of for problem solvers in some ways. And of course, that brings up all the inventions that we have come out of Aquarius energy. And I'm thankful for all of our devices that make life in some ways easier. They become problematic too, because the individual side of each of us sometimes gets too engaged with the device instead of with people.
I was just writing notes because I never thought about it before, but Aquarius is thinking out being like Uranus, outside of the box being Saturn. It's like, and having those two together is that understanding. And yeah, I mean, I think what I love is there's a way in which Aquarian friends, I remember reading a dating book on the different signs, like, which sun sign would you want to go out with? And they said, and it got to Aquarius and it said, well, the interesting thing about Aquarius is they'll tell you all their bad traits right up front. So it's like you kind of have a hard time disliking them because they're just honest about who they are. And I think that's
that's the friendliness.
Yeah, it's the friendliness, but also we're not we're a little bit socially awkward, so we don't really quite understand, the social requirements in a sense. So I think, our filtering is a little different. Because we do look at things a little differently. We share things, but it's also our way of like finding who else connects with us, right? Because Aquarius, what I like about it is it's our organizations and who we're attracted to, and our, the groups of people we want to belong to.
Well, what you said at the beginning about thinking outside the box, that is one of, it isn't said like that, but it's one of the symbols of Aquarius. It's actually the symbol for my Mercury. So it is very, very Aquarian in that regard. But yeah, but technology in general belongs, to Aquarius. And I have to say that I when technology is working well for everybody and not abused, I think it's great. And I really thank all those technocrats who've used that energy. They may not be Aquarian suns, but they've used that energy very well. Thank you very much. Engineer types usually.
Right. And the study of astrology, just to say, it's the other thing that I'm really happy about with Aquarius. So it's that studying ability. And also like how funny in a way, because like, how many of us began thinking that as an Aquarian that we were a water sign because it's the water bearer. But all it does is just allows for the transcendental waters to pour through and
through the sky, through the air, through the ethers.
And become Pisces.
Yeah, Pisces. Well, right off the bat, even though I was talking about my father not a while back there, and I was thinking about how the last year of his life, I'd been in and out of more hospitals than ever. And my brother and I had made a pact that we don't ever want to be in a hospital again. Well, unfortunately, I've been in the hospital a few times in this town, and I'm grateful for them. I'm really grateful for them. And so, yeah, that's not the highest expression, but it's one of the institutions, because Pisces takes in all of our institutions, all those things that unify us as people. And that's where Pisces energy can be just wonderful, when it seeks to bring us together. Now, sometimes it doesn't work and we have chaos, but at least the attempts were made to bring people together. That's what's great.
I love Pisces, like in the sense of like journey space, and in magic and in ceremony, and the ability to conjure forth the energy and the emotion of things in a way that can fill us up to make us feel full. I think Pisces has this wonderful capacity of compassion and acceptance of what is. Most of my dearest female friends have been Pisceans. There's just a way they can hold, and there's Scorpionic acceptance, and then there's Piscean acceptance. There's an agape, it's like almost, it's like the seventh love, it's that high.
Agape is very Piscean. Yeah. It's universal love. It's that love that we all, hopefully all, strive for, and are able to say to anybody, even somebody who has been extremely mean to us or our worst enemy, that I love you. You know, the difference between like and love. And love, you know, is just that recognizing that in spirit there is no division.
And the letting go of the physical,
Mm.
you know, the absolute understanding that we're so much more than these bodies and these orders and these systems and everything, you know, that are going on.
Yeah. One other thing about Pisces is retreat places, places where one can get oneself together on an individual level, like monasteries and convents and retreats of all sorts. You know, we have places that we even call, I'm going on a retreat, and I'm going to, and you name a place that is known for its
Like
retreat.
Harbin Hot Springs in the Bay Area, or, you know, 10,000 Waves here, or Ojo Caliente here in Santa Fe, you know, up north and north of here. It's, you know, these places that, you know, are the waters of mother, you know, of the sacred mother and the divine mother. And when we step into them, there's a way that we're, you know, almost back in the womb. We're all, you know, we're almost being resuscitated, especially those of us who live here in the desert. You know, there are a lot of days where we don't see any moisture whatsoever. And so stepping into a pool of water is a very luxurious and soothing experience that, you know, Pisceans just like, you know, they kind of ooze it from their pores. And you ever want to make a Piscean happy, take them to the water. Take them, at least most of the Piscean friends I've had. And the variety, you know, the, like, what's all capable of that, you know, looking across the way of Virgo and saying, look at all that order, and then going like, you know, it's okay. You know, it all is.
Yeah, so there we go with all 12 signs of the zodiac, and each of us giving us some tools or insights as to what we might want to be grateful for on this Thanksgiving Day. Maybe all of it, maybe only a part of it. Who knows? It's up to the individual, but it's a day where we can stop and think about the things in our life. And there's certainly, I could go through something for every sign of the zodiac for myself. You know, it's like it's sort of reminding, I'm wrapping it up with Pisces too, is in the whole zodiac. It's sort of like it's all inclusive for every single one of us. And
Like the sandals.
And the more that we become aware of that inclusivity, hopefully the more peace and well-being we'll have on this planet.
Well, I'm grateful and very thankful for all of you who listen to us each week and leave comments and have subscribed and share with your friends. I'm thankful also to you, Merrylin, for making the time and for us to be able to meet on a weekly basis and set up and have these conversations of deepening astrological understandings and sharing them with people. And thank you so much. How do people find you?
Moonwiseastrology.com, all one word. And there's a lot of Moonwise astrology if you just Google Moonwise, but I'm the only one that's moonwiseastrology.com. How's that? And even in the title, you might see process oriented, because that's the kind of astrology that I do. Just
put Moonwise and Merrylin or LeBlanc and you found it.
There's that too. But my name is spelled so unusual. That's
Christmas
why I didn't.
Coming, Merrylin.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Merrylin Christmas.
And there's a story to that, you know, I'm thankful to my Virgo mother for.
I think we'll have to, as we get closer to Yuletide, I think we'll have to learn what that story might be if you feel like sharing it.
Well,
Scorpio moon, it's a mom story, you know, you might not want to.
Well, it was an act of rebellion on my mother's part, but yes.
Good.
Anyway.
All right, well, have a wonderful week. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. Many blessings to everyone in their travels. Arrive safe and sound and enjoy.
Yes, thank you all, and peace. Bye.